Hello and welcome to my channel, Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is July the 4th, 2024. And I want to start by wishing all of my American friends happy 4th of July. I know this is a big day of celebration for you, and a lot of you probably won't likely be watching me today because you'll be busy with family and so on celebrating. But whenever you get to this video, I hope you had a great day of celebration. And it's also the first of the month, so Kiki is here in her new outfit. This is her July skirt. And yes, I know you're thinking, well, it should be red, white, and blue, but remember, I'm Canadian, not American. And yes, it could have been red and white for Canada Day, but she has a beautiful red and white dress for February, which is much more appropriate. And this is summer, and it has a mix of blues and greens, which makes me think of the beach. I wish there had been a little more blue in it, but this is what we did. And so she's quite happy. Put her up here with her friend. And I know you're wondering about a name. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. So I have a lot of people mentioned names like lavender and viola and purple, things to do with purple and flowers, purple flowers. So when I went back to look at it, lavender was one I was thinking of going with. But then I thought, well, that's a long name. And she's sitting next to Kiki, and it should be something short like Kiki. And I got thinking about purple and flowers, and Pansy was one that came to mind. I liked that name for her. But then I thought, probably one of my favorite flowers. I love the scent of them. They don't last very long, but I do have them. Is lilacs. I love the scent from my lilac bushes. So I thought, well, that's purple. Mine are all different shades of purple. So I think I will go with something from that. I'll either call her Lilac or Lila. Lila and Kiki. I think I like Lila, although I would like to use the word lilac, so I'm teetering there. I'll decide soon. All right, let's get down to some business because we have lots to cover today. I think I'm going to start with what I am wearing. That's where I usually start. And it's also a finished object. It's what I've been working on for a while. This is the Tuttle sweater by Emily Marie Davies. Emily Marie Davies. I will put links in the description box. You can see it has some textured stitches here at the beginning, and then the rest is simply half double crochets. Whoa, we don't have enough room here. And here is the rest of it. And I don't know if you can see, but the color changes partway down, and that's because of a different dye lot, I guess, or slightly different way the yarn took the dye, but I don't really care. It's not terribly noticeable. And so here it is, finally, my finished sweater. And I had this much left over. I tried to do another row before the final row didn't make it. I don't know, about that much short. So I just took out the last row and put in the finishing row. So I have less than one row worth of yarn left. So that's cutting it pretty close, but it is the perfect length that I want. And the yarn is from Ravenswood Fiber Company. As you know, I really like their yarn. They are on the East Coast. They're in the process of relocating back to Nova Scotia, and the color is called Dusting Off Old Books. Oh, Dusting Off Some Old Books. It's a fingering weight. It's a 85-15 merino nylon blend. I really enjoyed the yarn. I love the way the colors worked out. And I had 3 skeins with that little bit left over. So now I know that if I'm going to make something for the fall or winter and I want to put sleeves in it, I'm going to need 4 skeins. And I do have more of her yarn in other colors. And I'm sure the one I want to do a sweater in, I have 4 or 5 skeins. So that's what I'm wearing, and it's of course, my only finished object this week. Actually, it did get finished. I guess it was finished in June, although technically the 1st of July, I took some out and put it back in. So, and I had to do the ends, so kind of debatable there. Now, typically the first week of the month, I do what's called a stash down. I go over the items I made the previous month that I made from my stash, which of course I call my collection. And there wasn't a lot in May. First of all, there was something, well, this, for example, got made in May. No, we're doing June now. You can tell I'm not really sure what month I'm working in, but okay, this is July. So I'm doing the stash down for June. And this was technically made in June, but it was a new yarn I had just bought, a month or 2 before that. So I couldn't count this. So I only had 2 items that I completed in June that use yarn from my stash. The first one you'll have seen the last couple of weeks, and that is this one, which is called 1,000 Kisses, and it is a pattern by CJ Brady. I did it for the June Mal, has sparkle in it, and it's a yarn I had in my stash for years, I'm sure. So that's the one item I finished. I won't be linking it again today because you can find it in the last 2 videos. My last video in June and the video for the slideshow. I will have put that in the description box. The other item I made in June was this, and it's called Twilight Stroll. A lot of you seem to like it when I showed it, and I did show it sometime in June. And this is a pattern by Michelle Stead. Again, both of this and this are in Ravelry. So is 1,000 Kisses. These are all in Ravelry. And the yarn up here, I don't have the label anymore, and I don't remember what it was. It was from my stash. And the brown plain yarn, I know, was an EFA yarn. I think it was vellum. So that's it. That's all that got done in June, which is plus my squares, which I'll show you in a minute, which is kind of a very, very slow month for me. But in June, I was somewhat busy in my garden. I had my raised garden built, and I labeled, and I finished labeling all my plants. I showed you a tour of my gardens a couple videos ago. And as well as all of that, I have been dealing with the friend that is in the hospital. I go up to the hospital every other day to see her. And of course, there's other things to deal with that she is not able to deal with. So I'll just very quickly answer some of the questions that, well, not questions, but the best wishes for her continued improvement. She has had a very, very serious stroke, and the clot is lodged in an artery that they cannot remove it. and it has lodged in a place in her brain where it affects the speech and all that goes with it, comprehension, understanding, and all of that. She seems to understand us quite well, but I can tell when you ask her to do things, she's not always sure what to do. Speech was terribly affected, and she is working very, very hard at regaining her speech. She does have some speech, but it's very slowly coming back. And when she wants to communicate to us, we get a few of the words, but not all the words. And that part is extremely frustrating for her, as this is a woman that knew 2 languages and now can't seem to communicate to us the way she would like. The other thing, when it hits, and it was on the left side, which affects your speech, it also affects the right side of your body. She has no use whatsoever of her right arm and leg. So she has to be lifted out of the bed to the chair and back and forth with this big mechanism. So that's the state. They are telling me she will never be independent again. How much improvement she will make, nobody will say, because they don't want to be in trouble if they say she's going to make a recovery and she doesn't. So that's how it stands. She has no family, so all there is me. And I try to see her every day or every other day and get her talking. And hopefully there are some other things I can work with her. I am looking after all her business, of course. So it keeps me a little bit busy, and it keeps me running. And as you've all said, look after yourself, Judy. And I do try to get my rest when I can and to sit and crochet. For a while, I could not focus on crochet. I'm back to being able to crochet now, and I'll show you what I'm working on. And it's going to be a very, very long process. So I just thought I would sort of bring you up to date, because a lot of you have sent your best wishes and prayers, and I really, really appreciate that. Please keep sending them. Now, what I am working on. Well, first of all, I've been working on squares for our tutorials, and you will get tutorial number 2 at the end of this video. And the squares I've been working on, here are 3 of them. I'm not going to show them in any depth. You've already seen the herringbone stitch from last week. Some of you told me you had never seen it before, so I'm really glad it was a stitch you didn't know. I thought it would be one that most people did know, so I'm glad I brought you something you didn't know. And I have a 4th one done. So I've done 4 squares. I am going to use these squares in the item I'm going to make. And I've got this 4th one on the board. I told you I would be showing you the board. And the board, I believe, is, I think it's a 9-inch board. I have an 8-inch square that I've stretched. I have not got it wet to block it yet. I will. But I have pinned it. They send you this board and a block that you can rest the board in, see it, so you can stand it up. And you get a tube with all of these pins to block it around the edge. And also in the tube, you get about half a dozen tapestry needles, for winding in your ends. They're bigger than I like to use, but I took them upstairs. So here is one stretched out on the board. And now that I know what size this one is, when I get the other ones wet, I can put them right on top of this and stretch them or block them, however you want to call it, to the same size for all of them. Now, I haven't used the last row here, but I have definitely gone out to the far extremes. I have a measuring tape here somewhere. Well, My measuring tape seems to have disappeared. And I would have told you if this was an 8 or a 9 inch. I'm thinking my squares are somewhere around 8.5 inches. They're supposed to be 8. I measure them at 8, but when you're all done, they're always a little bit bigger. And I don't know if this is one of the bigger ones or one of the smaller ones. So we'll say it's an 8-inch board. And I have stretched it. So just so you know what you would get, I can then put the rest of these onto the board as well. And that's a great blocking board because, as you know, I'm using the leftover yarn from my 1,000 Kisses. I'm not going to use this yarn, but I've been using it to play with. And I have hexagons here. And I'll be able to block them on the board. Again, I can take these out. This is full of holes underneath. It's all solid holes all across the board. So you can place any shape on here that you want. And so I'll be able to block all of my hexagons to the same size. So I just wanted to mention that. Now, once again, I am using this yarn, which is from EFA. I'm using a size 4mm hook. And out of the first skein, I was able to get the 4 squares. Won't get a 5th square. And this is Twisted Tweed Sport, which is 42% fine merino, 43% superwash merino, and 15% Donegal. And it comes with 351 meters or 384 yards in the skein. I had wished I could get 5 out of one skein, but I can't. If only it had 400 meters, I might have. But anyhow, I was going to make something that required 2 panels with 9 squares, 3 by 3. So that would be 18, which meant I would make 3 of each of the squares that I'm making. Well, I don't have enough yarn because I only have 3 more. So 4 skeins times 4 would give me 16, not 18. Plus, I needed more yarn for finishing the item. So I've changed my mind on how I'm going to make, I'm still keeping it a secret, how I'm going to make this item. And thinking that I will only make the 6 squares and the rest will be done with just a solid stitch. And maybe the herringbone, but the herringbone does take more than a normal double crochet, and I may just use the double crochet to finish it off. So that I have worked on this. I did get 4 squares done in the month of June. So I guess you could call that something in my stash down, because I've had this in my collection for, well over a year. So that was something else I finished, and I told you I would show you the blocking board so that you can decide if that's something you're interested in. And what am I working on? Hang on just a sec. Last night, I got started on a project. I applied, as some of you may have seen, where Reggie put out a call for creators to do a pattern of hers. And so you get a pattern. This is the pattern I'm doing. And I know that a number of my viewers out there have done this pattern because this was one of her patterns in her membership program back when she was doing her YouTube regularly. And it's called the Delta Vega Scarf. It's unusual. I've only just started, and I have to tell you, I am really having a little bit of difficulty with these pieces here and doing that single crochet. So those of you that have done it, I would appreciate a comment, an email telling me how you manage, because my little, whatever you want to call those, are all over the place, and my single crochets are not great. Now, I have fidgeted and played and worked them around to get them to lay the way they're supposed to, and some of them still do not lay the way they are supposed to. So if you have any hints on how to do this any better, but I'm working on this, and it is a scarf or cowl. It's only one skein, so I should have it done for next week. And this is another EFA skein, and it is actually an oopsie skein. So I do not have a color name for this, but it is Dewy DK. By the way, this pattern can be found on Reggie J. Hook Crochet's Etsy store. I will link either her Etsy store or the pattern in the description box. And the yarn is Dewy DK, which is 70% superwash merino and 20% nylon and 10% silk, which I never realized. I thought their Dewy DK was just the DK version of their Sincere sock, which was just merino nylon. But that silk makes a difference, because this is really, really nice to work with. So when I'm all done, when I have it finished, I will do a review of the yarn as well. So hopefully that's going to be done by next week. And I'm using my Leto hook, and it's a number 5. I love these hooks. I wish he was still in business, because they have the greatest, see if I can find a way to show. They have the greatest point on the end, which, although I love my furls and I love the shape, furls does not have a great point. They have a more rounded point end, and I really like the point, and this wood is so nice and smooth. So that's what I'm using to make that project. Okay, I know what you're all waiting for. This is supposed to be the beginning of, I almost forgot, this is the beginning of Christmas in July. And I am very excited to be finally getting to my box of yarn. And the yarn comes from Smash Knits. I think I bought this. Smash Knits, I think, came out with this a little later than most of the advent calendars last fall, and so I bought this late in the fall, thinking it's only got 12 and that would be perfect for Christmas in July. There are 4 weeks, 4 Thursdays anyway, in July, so that means I'm going to open 3 each week. So we will start with number 1. Here is number 1, and it will just slide off. I don't even have to untie it. I like the numbers. I don't know if I can make use of them again or not. And they're in these nice cardboard boxes that I like. So if I ever do a giveaway of yarn, I guess I could use them. And the very first one, ooh, look at that. That's a peachy orange. None of these will have color names on them. And I did not look up the description, but boy, does this feel like there's either cashmere in it or silk. I'm going to see before next week if I can find my original invoice listing of this yarn, because it feels so, so soft. Okay, that's number 1. Let's check out number 2. I wonder if the yarn is an indication of the colors, although I seem to have repeats. So anyway, there's number 2. And this one is not going to slide off like the other one did. So we'll untie the bow, put number 2 up there. and open the box, and you'll see it as I see it. And here it is. Oh, now here is a color I really, really like. That's sort of a burgundy wine color. Very, very nice. When I get all three of them open, I'll put them up together. We'll see if we have a fade working here. So here is number 3. And this one is sliding off the box. And again, we'll open the box and you'll see it as I see it. Nice. Now this is a little more coppery, not coppery, pumpkin. It seems to me that the order is mixed up. These are the 3 we've received. 1, 2, 3. Wouldn't I think that they would be more suited to that direction? But anyway, there it is. 1, 2, 3. I think before next week, I will get a string or something to weave through so that I can hold them up. Either that or I find one of my boards. I have a board in the other room I can pin these to, and it's not a big board. But they feel heavenly. They feel heavenly. So I'm really, really happy with those. And I have a feeling that I'll be using these 12 in a project soon after I open them all up this month. So that is Smash Knits. Thank you very much. I love those yarns, and maybe I will check into their Advent for this coming year. I have already purchased 2 Advent calendars, and I told myself I'm not getting 4 this year, so I think I'll only get 3. But I do want to get 1 more. So that's still out there. It's really, really hard to make a decision because there are quite a few and more coming out. Right now is the time when a lot of them do come out. So we have another decision to make. Next, I have a little bit of Happy Mail. This came as a total surprise. I want to thank you, Deb, who is in Arizona, for my Happy Mail. And I always open Happy Mail off camera. I don't know why that is. I think because I can't wait. And also because I don't want to get into all the fuss of trying to open a package and all the crinkly. So I've already seen it. She sent me this little card and said that I won't read the whole message, but she was intrigued when I talked about possum yarn. You remember I mentioned the company that was at Knit City, Toronto, that were from Tasmania, and they had merino possum blend. I didn't see them, and I heard about them afterwards, and I wished I'd seen them. And she was intrigued by that possum blend, so she actually went looking on eBay. I never would have thought. I have actually looked up the company that was at Knit City, and I will look into possibly ordering from them. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, she found some on eBay, and she thought of me when she made an order, and so she sent me a skein to see what it was like. And here is the skein. And it is 60% New Zealand merino, and they tell me the merino from different countries is different, and 40% possum. It is a DK weight. It does say that much, double knit weight, 50 grams, but nowhere does it tell me. Oh yes, there it is. I found it. 128 meters or 140 yards. 140 yards. I love the color. I mean, you know I like blues, and this has kind of got a denim wash look to it. I will tell you that it does have a little bit of a woolly feel to it. There is a little bit of woolly feel. It has a little bit of, you can see, it has a little bit of halo. And I'm thinking that maybe I can make a cowl out of it, or maybe if I find another color I really like, that would go with this. I could make a shawl in some other color and put this as maybe highlight, like rose around it. I'm just going to have to keep my eye open for a pattern I like, or even a bigger cowl that uses another color and incorporates this in it. Obviously, there isn't a lot I can make with 140 yards, but I can certainly use it with something. It's beginning to feel a little softer, but there is a little bit of a woolly feel to it, a little bit. Not bad, but a little bit. I could certainly wear this. As Crystal would say, it's scarfable. So I wanted to say thank you very much, Deb, for thinking of me when you ordered this yarn. And I will give it a try at some point when I figure out what to do with it. And I will definitely let you all know how it worked out. But you can see it is DK, which means I got to find a DK weight, which would be something like this to put it with. So that's pretty much all I had to cover today. I had hoped to have my June subscription box from Sweet Georgia Yarn. I got notification that it's in the mail today. It's out for delivery today, but I had to make this video earlier in the day than my mail arrived, because once I have lunch, I'm heading up to the hospital for a meeting there. So that'll give us something to look at next week, is my June subscription box from Sweet Georgia Yarn. So I have only one other thing I want to mention before we cut away to the video, the tutorial video. 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I said that I would like to do a Q&A segment 1 week in July, and I asked for your questions. Do you have questions of me? Well, I can't very well do a whole segment on Q&A with only 2 questions. So I'm going to put it out there again, a request that you either in your comments for the videos, or send me an email if you prefer to do it that way. Please send me some questions so I have something to answer one of these weeks, which I would hope to be next week or the following week. I'm sure some of you have questions you'd like to ask me. And I'm going to mention once again that I am really, really excited and happy and thankful, grateful for all of the new subscribers that I have. And I hope that some of you will have some questions, because you haven't been around for the last almost 3 years. In September will mark my 3-year anniversary. So I'm sure you have some questions, and I was so thrilled to have, in the end, it was about 1,700 views of that video last week, and I have increased by 60 subscribers as a result of YouTube pushing out that video. So I have about 70, 71 or 2 more to get to my 1,500. Hopefully throughout the summer we can get 70 more, maybe 40 each month will get me over the 1,500 by September. So Please share this video with others, like it and comment. All of those things bring me up in the algorithm and watching the entire video. And today, you may not watch it right now, but today we have a tutorial to add on to this. So it's time that I brought this to a close before we got too long of a video. Did you notice last week my mistake at the end? Until we see each other next week, happy hooking. Our next tutorial is called the Triad stitch. And if you recall me bringing that big ball of gray yarn into one of my videos, and I showed you a few of the samples I had done, here is a few rows done in the Triad stitch. Now this is a stitch that is more open, sort of almost like a granny, but it is different. And I've done it with a very, very heavy yarn. I think it's a bulky yarn. And you can see it has opens holes, much like a granny square. And personally, I would not make a baby blanket out of it, but it would make a very nice blanket. If not for a baby, it would make a nice pattern for a scarf. I'm sure there are other ways you could use it as well. So I'm going to be showing you how to do this Triad stitch today. And the first thing is that you need a multiple of 2. So I've already started. I did a chain. I think I did a chain of 14. And when I'm sorry that this wiggles. I don't know how to do this in a way that it's not going to wiggle all the time. Okay. You have to do a chain, an even number chain, and I believe I did 14. And then this is considered to be a 2-row repeat, but the 1 row is simply a row of single crochets. So when you get to the end, you're going to work back into the second chain from the hook. I don't think you go into the second chain, and you do single crochets. Now, when I'm doing single crochets, I like to do them into the back bump. See the back bump of the chain? So I go into the back bump and do my single crochets. So I'll do my single crochets across this row. Someday you should try just setting up your camera, your phone, whatever, and tape yourself, or try to tape yourself doing this. You don't have to do anything with it, but just try it and see how awkward you become when it's being done to be taped, especially when you know somebody else is going to be watching it. It's becomes very awkward. And as I mentioned last time, my hands are always moving when I stitch, so it's very hard for me to keep them very still in one place in front of this. I'm using a phone. We're almost done. Sometimes this very last stitch is hard to find or hard to get into because you pull that first chain a little too tight. But I've managed to get in, and there we are with our last single crochet. So there's our row of single crochets, and I'll show you. You see how the top of any row of stitching has a very nice set of V's, and that's why I go into the back bump, because you'll see the same thing on the bottom is that row of V's. So it makes the stitching have what I consider to be a finished look at both the beginning and the end. And so if you're making a long scarf, you're going to have a nice finish at both ends. So that's why I go into the back of the back hump. I didn't always know to to do that, but when I did learn it, I started to use it. Now, we're going to chain 4 and turn our work. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turn our work. Get that long tail out of the way. I'm caught up here. What's the story? Ah, okay. Tail is causing me problems. I should have made it shorter. Anyhow, we're going to start as if we are doing a double crochet. We're going to yarn over. Now remember, this chain is your first stitch. We're going to go in the second stitch and we're going to pull up a loop. We're going to pull it up extra. Then we're going to yarn over and go in the next and pull it up. And finally, yarn over and go in the third stitch and pull it up. So that we should have 7 loops, 2, 4, 6, 7 on our hook. Then you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through the first 6, leaving the 7th one alone. So that now we have 2 loops on our hook. And finally, we're going to yarn over and pull through the 2 loops, which finishes the stitch. Then we're going to chain 1. All right. Now we're going to proceed in the same way with all the stitches. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go into the same stitch that we just finished in. So they're going to share that stitch. Going to yarn over, pull up a loop, pull it up a bit, yarn over, go into the next and pull up a loop, and then yarn over into the third one, pull up a loop again. So once again, we have 7 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull carefully through all of the stitches except the last. So we have 2 loops on our hook, and then we will yarn over and pull through both of them. And then we will do a chain before moving on to the next one. So yarn over, go into the same space as the last one, yarn over, go in there, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next one and pull up a loop, yarn over, go into a third one and pull up a loop. And again we have 3, 6, 7, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 6 of them, leaving the 7th one on the hook. Then we will yarn over and pull through both of them. And finally, we will do a chain. So, you see how that's working? Let's do it again. Yarn over, go into the same space as the last one, pull it up, yarn over. I don't worry about pulling it a great distance, but you need to pull it up a little. Yarn over through the third one because you want to have some space to be able to pull your hook through all of them except the 7th. So through 6, and then yarn over, pull through the 2, and then finally a chain. And we have space to do one more. Yarn over, remember, same space as the last one. Yarn over, pull through, pull it up, yarn over, pull through the next one, pull it up, yarn over through the third one, pull it up, and then yarn over and pull through 6 of the 7, leaving the 7th one on the hook. So we have 2 there, yarn over, pull through the 2. Let me just pull this yarn out a little bit. And then finally, we do a chain 1, and we have 1 stitch left, and we're going to do a normal, regular double crochet. Okay, double crochet. So there's what the first row is looking like. Now, we have to do a row of single crochet. So you're just going to chain up 1 and turn your work, and you're going to go in your very first stitch right here, and do a single crochet. Then you're going to go into the chain space, the space here, the open space, do a single crochet, and then you're going to go into the top of your stitch, do a single crochet, and that's all the way across. There's the chain space, do a single crochet, there's your stitch, do a single crochet, into the chain space, into the stitch, be nice if I could keep my hands still in one place, wouldn't it? I don't know how many of you, when you crochet, find your hands moving around, or are you able to keep them steady right there in front of you? I don't know. I watch tutorials and people are able to keep them right there, but me, I'm moving all over. Chain space into the top of the stitch, the last stitch in the row. Okay, now here's where you have to be careful. You have to do another one in the chain space, a single crochet in the chain space, and you have to do, because this counts as a stitch, a double crochet. You chained up 4, but it's your double crochet in a chain 1. So you have to go in the third one from the beginning and do a single crochet. So I have to get 2 threads there and do a single crochet at the top. All right, so eventually that'll pull a little straighter at the top of the chain. So that's your row of single crochets, and then you'll just start repeating row 2 and row 3 over and over again. So once again, you're going to chain up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I had too much yarn pulled off the ball, and you know what happens when you have too much yarn. It wants to get all tangled. So I chained up 4, turn my work, and I am going to, now remember that's your chain space, so you're going to go into this space with your first yarn over, pull it up, yarn over, go into the next one and pull it up, and yarn over, go into the next one and pull it up. And then you're going, you see you have 7, 2, 4, 6, 7, yarn over and pull through all but the 7th one. Then pull through the 2, and then chain 1. Okay, continuing on, we will go into the same space as the last one, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and again we have 7 on the hook. We're going to yarn over, pull it through 6, then we have 2, and we're going to yarn over and pull it through the 2, and then we're going to chain 1. Same thing, yarn over, go into the same space as that last one right there, pull up a loop, pull out this yarn a bit, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and again we have 7 on our hook, yarn over, pull through the 6, leaving 1, so there are 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we will chain 1. Continuing on, yarn over, go through the same space as the last one, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, 7 on the hook, yarn over, pull through the 6, leaving 1, so we now have 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and finally 1 more chain. I think we have enough for 1 more. Yarn over into the same space as before, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull up a loop. And again, we have 7 on our hook, yarn over, pull through 6 of them, so we have 2 on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then do a chain. And now you see we have 1 space left, and we're going to do a double crochet in that space, in that stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's how it's looking so far. It's always going to look like it's falling over at the beginning because of that long chain, but it straightens up when you make use of it. Now I'm just pulling this yarn out a little bit more, and we're going to do the next. I won't do the whole row, I'll just start it. And again, once more, we have to do a row of single crochets. So that means that we're only going to chain 1, chain up 1 and turn, and you're going to go into the very first stitch right here, do a single crochet, then you will go into the chain space and do your single crochet, then you're going into the top of the stitch right there, doing a single crochet, go in the chain space, do a single crochet into the top of the stitch, do a single crochet, and I will go all the way across because I think you need the end of the row shown to you once more. I'm sure you can do all these single crochets. And there's your last stitch, your actual triad stitch. Then you have to do a single crochet in that chain space, that big chain space. You're going to do 1 up against your last stitch, And then you have to look for the third chain in that beginning chain and do, whoops, don't yarn over, do a single crochet there. So you got to find it, poke it through. That's why I say do these chains a little bit loose, or you're going to have trouble getting your hook in there, depending on the size of your hook, and do one last single crochet. So that's what it is going to look like when you're finished. Now I've done that in a ice cream that's in several colors. So you can see the color changing going on there, but I think you can see the stitches also quite nicely, and it makes for a very nice stitch pattern. And you just need to go back if you're not sure and watch my instructions for doing row 2 and 3 again, and then this is 5 and 6, but 2 and 3, no, 4 and 5, 2 and 3, 4 and 5. Just watch it over and over, same thing, and it grows very nicely. Now I'm going to show you, because I am doing swatches in the color from my project, and I haven't finished the swatch yet because once again my swatch is the wrong size. I don't know what it is about measuring. Somehow I measure it. Do you ever find you measure your beginning chain, and of course it's not going to be the same, so I measure the next couple rows and I think I've got it, and now I've measured it. I have that much done, and this time it's not wide enough. It gets frustrating, but anyway, this is done with a sport weight, a thinner yarn, and obviously a smaller hook. I'm using for all of my swatches, I'm using my dots, can you see it? Number 4. Dots 4 millimeters hook. So it's all going to be smaller. It's not going to show as big a gaps, but there are still gaps in it. Lacy kind of look. And that's how it looks after several rows. That's how it looks. So I hope that helps. I hope that stitch tutorial was clear enough for you to understand how to do this stitch. This is a stitch I rather like. It becomes very routine after a few rows. It's not hard to do. Good luck with it.